Zoltan, Ivan, Chris, and Charlie knew what they were doing when they made Andy James the new permanent member of Five Finger Death Punch. Guitar virtuoso, metal guitarist of Instagram and YouTube star. But how did he get here? We're about to find out. Welcome to the podcast, Andy James of Five Finger Death Punch.
Right.
Crowd goes wild. It's good. You haven't had that big Five Finger Death Punch crowd in a while. So I'm like, whoa.
Right, yeah. What was it? March last year. So it's been a good 14, 15 months, something like that.
Wow. What was your last show? Do you remember? Do you remember where it was?
I think it was Sofia, Bulgaria. Hopefully I didn't get the place in the country mixed up. Because I sort of came in halfway through and then was trying to, figure out where we were.
Well, I believe you more than any other guitarist, to get that right. I believe you over another American metal guitarist. Right, if anyone, you would get it right. So besides all the band stuff, I want to know about you. How was your day today?
Yeah, not too bad. What did I do? Tried to get my car fixed this morning. Couldn't. I'm finding out that America is very different in terms of trying to get things done quickly. The UK is a lot smaller. You can just turn up to a quick fit and get your car sorted. Whereas here you got to book it in and then a week later get it fixed. But then it kind of fixed itself.
Did you kick it?
No, I did go over a bump and the engine light went off and I was like, oh, cool, it's fixed. I don't have to go and get it sorted. But no, I'm still going to get it looked at anyway because I've got to drive quite a long way.
So how have you been spending your days out in Vegas?
Well, I relocated here, January at the beginning of this year. And then I was kind of just staying with Zoltan for a bit and, getting used to Vegas and everything. And then I've recently just got my own place. So I've just been sorting that out, really getting furniture in here and all that, building a studio. I've only just started getting a setup together where I can do videos and stuff, because I used to do quite a lot of videos like teaching and stuff like that, and performance videos and stuff, which I had a studio back home which I built, but yeah, just haven't had anywhere to kind of do that stuff for a while. So just basically been getting settled in between that and popping in the studio now and again for album number 9 for Death Punch. That's it. That's not very exciting, unfortunately. And then just trying to fit in, going through stuff again, because we've got a few festivals coming up in the next few weeks. So
it's just all about getting ready for those festivals. It's been hurry up and wait. Now it's kind of like, all right, this is go time. This is what we've been waiting for. Yeah,
exactly. It's going to be, I don't know, weird. I mean, I've been to like a hockey game and some other kind of event since the restrictions have lifted in Vegas, and it's kind of felt a little bit weird, which is weird, just kind of feel normal doing normal stuff, you know what I mean, given the last sort of year and a half or whatever. But things are slowly getting back to normal. The UK though is a little bit different. I'm kind of glad I'm not there at the moment because it just seems like it's crazy over there. I don't know what's going on, but
yet surprisingly upbeat.
Yeah. Well, but here, we can do, because I know they had like a pilot festival for Download a few weeks ago, which was like 10,000 people. And it was, the closest thing that we've had to like a proper gig gathering since all this began. But like I say, it's going to be weird going back out on stage again and, remembering what it's like to kind of do a gig basically.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it, definitely. But it's kind of going to be like, get the first song out of the way and be like, yeah, okay, I still remember what I'm doing,
So you're in Vegas. I've been asking everyone, because I've had so many people, I think the whole music industry move to Vegas. I'm obsessed with Vegas. Haven't been back since pandemic, but everyone's moving there right now. Are there any rock bars that you hang out at? What places do you really like in Vegas?
I've been to a whole bunch. I know there's a new one opened on the Strip somewhere, which I need to go and check out.
Nice.
There's like the Double Down, which is like a really kind of dive bar-ish type place, which is cool. Been there a few times. There's a place called Bootleggers, which is like a sort of old Rat Pack style Italian restaurant. Do really good meatballs there. It's on Vegas Boulevard. That's cool. Just places like that, really. I'm not really much of a kind of, being a place where there's loads of people anyway, or going to like clubs or anything like that. So haven't like done anything like that really. I think the most crowded thing I've done is the hockey game, one of the playoff games for the Knights against Montreal, which we lost.
Did you go with Chris?
One of the games I went with, actually my first ever game I went to here, I went with Chris because he had a spare thing. He was kind of like, you know, if you're going to be in Vegas, you need to experience what hockey's like. So he was cool enough. He just texted me up and went, oh, you know, let's go. So we did. Can't remember who it was against now, but I just remember thinking at the beginning of the game, I was watching it thinking, yeah, this is pretty cool. You know, good atmosphere, it's like a fast paced game. And by the end of it, I was going, you know, I was like proper getting into it. So yeah, I was kind of caught the bug after that. And then started following them on Instagram and following the games. And then another friend of, a friend of a friend of Zoe's, but I guess he's kind of become a friend of mine as well. He just invited us to go and see one of those games. But that was pretty cool because it was actually behind the glass. So the first time we went, it was like in the middle of the rink, but like so you could see equally both ends. And then this one was behind the home end. So that was kind of gnarly because it's a different way to watch the games, especially like when you know, some of the players, they like just smack up against the glass and stuff, you know what I mean? And actually at one point, if there wasn't the glass there at all, I'd have ended up with a puck where my face is, you know, because one just literally came like that. Scared the shit out of me. Yeah, it was cool though. It was really good fun actually. Yeah.
Besides that, did you watch the game with the ankle break?
Oh, the Conor McGregor one.
So bad. Yeah, that ankle. It still like freaked me out. I almost threw up the first time I saw it, and I don't get queasy, but I saw that. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Well, I didn't even notice it had happened because I'd seen he'd kicked him like earlier in the fight, and I think they must have, when they were playing the replays, I think they kind of figured out that he must have done something. But he kind of looked all right after that, and then I don't know. He was getting a beating anyway. Really, kind of thought that the guy was gonna do him anyway before he got up and started fighting again. But yeah, I hadn't noticed he'd done that to his foot until he was sitting on the floor, and then he was like moving his leg around, pointing to it, going, "It's broken, and it was just flopping there." But I could deal with that kind of because a couple of months ago, can't remember the fighter now. Literally, the first hit in the fight just literally went in for a shin kick and broke his own shin. And I don't think he realised, but there was a massive crack. And then when he put his leg back down, it had folded the other way, and it was just like, oh, that was pretty intense.
So listening to you play, watching you play, there's no question on why Five Finger Death Punch hired you. The videos I watch of you playing don't even look real. You play so fast. They really don't. But I think we all want to know how you got there. So let's start at the beginning. Yeah.
What, at the very beginning or?
Well, I had some like ways to frame the beginning. Like, yes, I want to know about childhood, things like that, or like what kind of crazy teenager you were. But I think like, have you ever seen the movie Almost Famous?
Once, yeah.
Okay,
probably about a couple of years ago, so I don't remember it that much, but yeah. So
the very end of the movie, he finally gets his interview and he leans in real close and he's like, what do you love about music? And I've always thought that was a really beautiful way just to pay homage to the passion of like what you really love about music. So The beginning, the way that I would phrase it, and we'll talk about your beginning, how you look at it. Why have you dedicated your life to music and what do you love about it?
I mean, I kind of expressed an interest in music like fairly early on, probably around the age of 5 or 6, but we had like a piano in the house. So I just used to kind of, you know, mess around on that or whatever. And I don't know, it kind of made sense in a way, like just sitting down and playing things that, you know, melodic things that worked in key with itself, you know, so I could tell, you know, what note would sound good after the next note and the next note sort of thing, I suppose, in a very basic way. But, and then, I don't know, like towards the end of the 80s, a lot of the kids were listening to like Guns N' Roses, and I think Paradise City had just come out. And I was too young to buy that anyway, because it was like explicit lyrics. So you had to be like 18 and over to buy that thing anyway. So I think it might have been my brother bought it for me, because I'd heard the song a couple of times on the radio and I was into it, and found out what album it came off, and it was Appetite for Destruction, obviously. And then yeah, so I had the cassette tape of that, and then I just remember kind of listening to the outro solo for like Night Train, and I was just like, I don't know why, for some reason that song over all the other songs on the record was like, I wanted to do that. I don't know, I didn't know how I was going to do it, and I didn't own a guitar, and it wasn't until years later I picked up the guitar anyway. So I think I was about 8 or 9 when that came out. What was it, 87 or 88, something like that? I would have been 6 or 7, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up when the album came out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, so don't look at me.
Yeah. So it wasn't until I started going to this school in Brighton, which is like South England, and there was a friend of mine there. He was his dad had just gone out and like bought him a guitar for like the weekend and stuff. And he had like a stack of books, and he had to have some Guns N' Roses books in amongst all of that. So I started kind of reading and getting my head around, you know, the tab notation, which is just basically fret numbers on strings, and it just tells you where to put your fingers, basically. And then I started going through a bunch of that stuff and found out about some other Guns N' Roses albums. And I guess I was kind of gravitating towards Slash as an influence. But I didn't really kind of realize it. I liked the sound of them and the songs and the leads and stuff. And I hadn't really been exposed to a huge amount of other guitar playing before that point. So it was really the only first thing that I'd heard. So yeah, I started going through that and picking it up pretty quickly, which to me didn't seem weird, but it seemed odd to people around me. And I started to notice that maybe I kind of was doing something, because people would be like, oh, I'll play such and so, I'll play it. And then, you know, you get a good reaction rather than a bad one. And I suppose that's how you navigate through life, is how people react towards you, I suppose. And you change things depending on whether it's good or bad, I suppose. So yeah, just sort of carried on with that really. And then I kind of just carried on playing that stuff. I think I got into maybe some like Skid Row stuff as well. And then I discovered like Joe Satriani and that kind of thing. But I remember, right, because I only had the record of Surfing with the Alien, and I had like this old record player that was just, I think it was given to me with a stack of records. And I remember, because I really liked the cover of this thing, and someone had mentioned that, oh, Joe Satriani, you know, you should check out this guitar player. And so I was like, yeah, cool. So I had the thing, and it looked cool because it had like the alien on the front with the whole red cover and everything. And I put the record in, and then I played it, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is insane. It just sounded almost sped up, right? But the funny thing is it was, because I don't know if you remember, but the old record players used to have like a kind of speed up lever on it, like it would actually make records play faster. I think it's because like if you put another style record on there and you speed it up, it plays it at normal speed. So anyway, I don't know how that works. But then I kind of realized that after a while I've been listening to this Surfing with the Alien album on double speed. So actually, like when I figured out that it wasn't right, I think someone had said, what are you doing listening to it like this? It's not meant to go like that. Because I had no idea, never heard it, you know. And I suppose when you're like that young, you just don't realize that you're listening to something that's sped up. I mean, obviously if someone played me something like that now, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's not the right speed at all. So anyway, I found the speed lever, I put it back down, and then I was like, ah, and then it just seemed incredibly slow. So I don't know whether psychologically that kind of did something to me in my head, where I was just like, yeah, I reckon I could play that, or, you know, get somewhere close to it. So then I actually started learning some of that stuff as well. And that's, and then, yeah, I got into like extreme. So, you know, early Nuno Betancourt playing and stuff. Was really into that stuff for a long time. I really like his note choice and his kind of like aggressive percussive sound that he has. So I was gravitated towards more of a kind of aggressive picking style, I suppose, than I did anything. Because Satriani's quite a fluid player, and although I like a lot of that stuff, I always struggled with that particular technique personally. So I kind of moved away from that and got more into players that were, like picked everything. So later on, I got into guys like, Paul Gilbert, Zach Wild, John Petrucci, all those guys that are just have killer right hands, So I kind of gravitated towards that style of playing later on as I progressed. But I remember, like, I didn't really expand my knowledge as a guitar player until I hit 16, and I'd finished school. I went to college, which was actually like a recording, kind of performing, writing, recording course more than actually learning how to play guitar. So it was more a case of taking what I'd already done up to that point and trying to maybe get in a band or go and do some stuff and actually play some gigs. And because that was kind of the next thing for me. It's like, okay, I've spent too much time in my bedroom now. I need to see if I can play live, if you like. So when I got there, there's this guy in the year above on the course, and I just remember he was like playing all sorts of like different music and stuff like that. I think he was playing because I'd already heard of Mr. Big at this point, so I'd kind of started getting into Paul Gilbert, but I didn't know about Racer X or anything like that, which is the band he was in when he was a lot younger. And just some of the playing on that was just incredible. And then he was listening to like Paul Gilbert, Yngwie Malmsteen, Zach Wild, John Petrucci. So when I hit 16, I'd just been exposed to all of this music that I didn't know existed before. So that year for me was like, it blew my mind really, with like the amount of stuff I thought, right, okay, fuck, I've got a lot of work to do, if I want to kind of get anywhere close to anything like what I was hearing. And at that point, my influences kind of expanded so much. I had so much stuff to get through. I stopped learning whole songs and I started learning just bits and pieces from everything that kind of like buzzed me the most about all the different players that I discovered from that point onwards. I started to learn. So if there was like a Zach Wild solo, for example, but there was a section of that solo, I would learn that rather than the whole thing. And then I guess over the years, my playing has just become an amalgamation of all the favorite parts of different guitar players that I like, and which has sort of shaped my own way of approaching stuff. So, I mean, when I play now, I don't think, oh, what would such and such do in this bit? I just kind of play and whatever comes out, comes out. But I think for the longest time, I probably did think that way, like, oh, what would Zach Wild do here, or what would Andy Timmons do there, or so you'd have like these mix and match kind of bits just joined together. But I guess that's kind of how influences work. You let them kind of like guide you for as long as you kind of need that, and then you feel like, okay, I think I can go it alone here and try and create my own voice, if you like. Because I guess at the end of the day, that's trying to create a sound where like someone can hear you and go, oh yeah, that's such and such. It doesn't get lost in the sea of. I mean, I'm not saying I have done that, but I always try and play things that I think are things that might be attached to me in the way I play, I guess.
No, that's exactly what I was going to know. And it's just so full circle listening to you, because you said that you were listening to this going like, oh my God, how can this guy play so fast? And it was double time, but I watch videos of you and it doesn't seem real that you can play that fast.
Right.
It does it to me like you've become like what you were watching. So that's very full circle on that, because what you do now just doesn't even seem real or possible to like watch, people go. And I've seen so many guitar players. I just don't see people go that fast very often. So
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I suppose the speed element is kind of one of the things that I worked on fairly early on, I suppose. Because funnily enough, now it really isn't the focus at all. Although, obviously it's still present in like stuff that I'm doing. But like, I guess when I was younger, I thought that the way to impress people would be to try and play as fast as possible. Because I suppose in a way, when I did manage anything up to speed around that time, the reaction from people was like, oh God, that's fucking really fast or great or whatever.
I know, but I feel bad. Now I'm people. I'm like, oh yeah, you play so fast. I'm so impressed. No, I'm like, damn it, I'm people. No.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant like just generally being aware of people's reaction to what you're doing, I suppose. Mm. But the funny thing is like I quickly realized that I had a lot of work to do. I mean, this goes back to like when I joined college again, because I hadn't really been in a band until that point. So I'd never played with any. I mean, I jammed with a bass player friend of mine for a few years in like a garage, but we were playing like Guns N' Roses songs. So we were playing songs that had already been written, and you just learn the parts and play them and just have fun and jam out. But when it comes to like writing your own stuff and being in a room with 3 other or 4 other guys, and you've all got to agree that this is how it goes, and then you've got to do it, and then you've got to get people to your gig, and they've got to enjoy what you do as well. And then, you start learning actually that the technique is only such a small part of what's important, like when trying to sort of, because ultimately when you focus just on speed, it becomes like a competition, I suppose. You get pitted up against people for like how fast you can be or whatever. But like, music doesn't require that same competition, because it's definitely in the ear of the beholder. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. And it doesn't really come down to how technical it is or how fast it is, I suppose. They either like it or they don't. And I started to learn that people enjoyed music as a whole rather than just the individual sum of its parts, if you know what I mean. So, but it didn't happen immediately. It took a long time for me to let go of the idea that speed was the thing, that, because I was still doing it, even like the first couple of solo albums that I did. I mean, even like, maybe the first 3 solo albums, especially the one I did in 2011. I mean, I was trying to find my voice, if you like, as like an instrumental guitar player, in terms of how would I write, songs that don't sound like Satriani or Steve Vai, or, because they're such great players and monumental legends in that field. There's certain things that you have to avoid in order to not sound like them and try and do your own thing. So it took me a while to try and find my own voice in terms of how I was going to like write songs and present myself that way. And I suppose at that point, I was thinking, well, look, you need to write songs that obviously guitar players like, because that's the market that you're aiming for. But it's trying to put it into a framework that is actually song-based as well. So trying to kind of like bring the two together. And I suppose in a way, like when I got into metal, the first metal band that I really got into was Killswitch Engage, right? I was around a friend of mine, and he was out for the day or something like that. And I think I woke up in the lounge because I was just sleeping on the sofa, and I just put like a music thing on. And I was just like watching thing, and this song came on, and I was just like, fucking hell, this is amazing, right? And I mean, the song turned out to be End of Heartache, but I couldn't remember the name of the song. I could only remember the name of the band, right? So when I went to HMV, which is like a chain store that we used to have for like CDs and stuff like that, I was looking through the Killswitch Engage records, and there was a few of them, and I was like, fuck, I don't know, I can't remember the name of the song, blah, blah, blah. So I ended up getting this album, and when I put the album in, I started playing it, and I was just like, musically, this sounds like the same band, but this is not the same singer. I didn't know that they had 2 singers, because obviously Howard came in after when Jesse left. So I ended up getting Alive or Just Breathing, which actually turns out to be one of my favorite Killswitch records anyway. But I later then found out that the song was End of Heartache, and then I got that record as well. And I think that ultimately shaped my approach to playing heavier music, but in a kind of like structured way, and like how they would do it. So then when I was doing that album back in 2011, I was already in a band called Sacred Mother Tongue at the time, which is kind of fairly, metalcore-y anyway, Killswitch influenced, with a bunch of other stuff as well. So when it comes to doing the instrumental thing, I kind of took that influence and pushed it into, more guitar-orientated music without vocals. And I think that album was really the beginning of me making sense of like how I was going to present myself as a guitar player and a musician with the music that I liked, the heavy style of what I liked, with the kind of more shred thing and having the melodic thing. Because I think with Killswitch, they had like these kind of like screaming verses and then these amazing epic choruses, right? And I kind of thought about doing that in the same way with the guitar playing. It's kind of like having the kind of shreddy parts in the verses, and then having these like chorus themes that would be like epic guitar parts, and that's kind of where it started for me, writing that style of music anyway. So
yeah, it's actually funny listening to you talk about Killswitch Engage. I had Jesse on the podcast like 2 episodes before you.
Yeah, I think I saw something about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything you're talking about of like when he left and when he came back and like how he internally dealt with that, it's like really interesting. It was all about demons that he battled. And when he came back, it was like him just leaving him in himself the way that he had to. So it's really cool. Like, it's a very like, demons are real. Yeah. And the things we go through and the voices inside of our heads and things like that. It was really interesting. But I love that that's, one of the bands that got you into it. Would you say, and this is something I kind of wonder about your playing, has there been like different parts in your life where you played differently because you felt differently? Like, have you gone through like really heavy times because you were pissed off and angry, and then you went through like a happier time and you let off the gas a little bit? Like, does it correlate for you emotionally how you play?
No, I mean, I would say I'm pretty emotionally even. Like I don't really have like, I mean, now anyway, I don't really have like the sort of like ups and downs. And I suppose like, just my general being has kind of always been like that. But having said that, like younger, I suppose I would have these like bouts of, because I get like really stressed out. So I'd be fine, but if I get stressed, then everything's fucked, So I kind of have those like moments. But in terms of like writing, I suppose, no, not really. I mean, but different flavors happen on albums. So say like I'll go through albums and have like the angrier songs and then the kind of ballady songs and stuff like that. But I think the layout of an album certainly kind of pushes you into thinking about how many different things you're going to put into it. Because I guess if I was just going to make like a completely heavy album from start to finish that was all shred and had no like melodic parts, I don't know how much of an enjoyable listen that would be. And then on the flip side, I don't know if I was going to write a whole album of like kind of ballady songs, how that would. So, like every time I approach a record, there's usually like styles of songs that I'll gravitate towards, and then they almost become like sort of like an imaginary template, if you like. And then and then at that point it becomes like how I feel at the time, depending on what's going on. So I mean, I do get like emotionally attached to my music, but I kind of don't at the same time. I suppose because of the online culture, if you like. I mean, I write stuff that buzzes me, and I write stuff that I like or whatever. But that you're not going to please everyone, right? So I've kind of switched off from putting too much of myself in a song, and then having somebody come along and completely destroy it, and then I'd just be completely done in by someone's, abject negativity, you know what I mean? So I try not to get too attached to the stuff that I do. I just know that if I'm true to myself and I write something that I'm like, okay, yeah, this buzzes me, and I can listen to it, and I don't, because I never wanted to be one of those people that cringes when one of their songs comes on or something that they've spent a lot of time on and just go, oh no, I can't listen to myself. I never wanted to be that way. So like, especially the last 2 albums that I've done, I don't feel that way at all. Like if it comes on or someone's playing something, or I don't know, rarely it'll be out. I'll be out in public and something that I've done comes on. I don't shy away from it at all. I just listen to it and go, yeah, still cool. That's it, But that's only my opinion. That's not, I know there's people out there that have heard my stuff and just fucking hate it, but that's just the nature of the game. But I suppose after years and years of playing guitar, your experience just tells you how to approach a certain emotion, if you like. So if you know that you're going for a certain type of song, what fits into that mood, and then you start messing around with those kind of ideas, and then how something makes you feel on the replay. Like there's a song that I did on not the last record, the record before that, called After Midnight, right? And I was kind of like, I knew what I wanted. I wanted something, because I've been listening to a lot of like the Midnight, that kind of 80s retro wave throwback band. And I quite liked how they had this sort of like dark, almost like raining back alley type sound to their music. I don't really know if that makes any sense, but in my mind, it conjures up images of like Blade Runner and stuff like that, you know. Yeah. So I kind of had this image in my mind of something, or creating something that would fit into that image. So I suppose emotionally, from that point of view, I started to think about how I was going to do that, and then I found some cool sounds or whatever. Just started messing around with it, and then it kind of grew from there, really. But yeah, so sometimes I do have those feelings and stuff that I want to, not necessarily how I'm feeling at the time, but how I can pull that emotion from writing a piece of music, and then hopefully other people can feel that as well. I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but yeah, I haven't like broken up with a girlfriend or a partner or whatever, and just fucking gone, oh, I'm done in today, I'm going to write a song, and then that be that. I've never done that, or been like, fuck yeah, I'm really happy, I'm going to write this song. Kind of doesn't really happen like that for me. It's more conceptual, and then I understand what I need to put into that concept to make it happen, and then use my feelings as I'm doing it to kind of steer the direction of the song. I suppose that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, that was my question there. It's like, do you feel things and then go, oh, fuck this? Or do you feel things and go, oh, yeah. So like, that was my question. So,
oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, if I'm sitting there and it doesn't buzz me, or it sucks or whatever, and I just don't get excited about it, or if I've heard it over and over and over again and it starts to wind me up, then yeah, I'll just bin it off.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, because that's the other thing as well. I feel like if you're an artist and you're creating something and you either hate it, or you don't like the way you sound, or you don't like the way you look, and it's kind of like, well, how are you going to sell this to somebody else, or expect them to feel more about it than what you do, and you're the one creating it? So I suppose for me, I just work on stuff until I'm well happy with it, and then that's it, you know. And then it goes off into the world, and my feelings towards it will be completely bulletproof from any other opinions, positive or negative, because I know that I can just listen to it and be like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I wouldn't change it. So I try and get to that point, and then, you know, whatever happens after that.
I love that. And inadvertently, you kind of brought up something that I hate talking about in interviews. Like, it's the question that I can't stand more than anything. A lot of interviewers always say, hey, so what advice do you have for young blah, blah, blah? And I hate that question. And the reason why I hate that question, you either have it or you don't. You either got it or you don't. So that's kind of like, are you on or are you not on? And you're saying, like, if you don't fucking believe in yourself, no one else is going to. So get off that shit. It's not effective. Go. Like, that's the best advice. Like, if you don't believe in you, no one else will. So quit shit talking yourself.
I mean, it's funny because you kind of touched upon a point where I suppose there is a point where there are some people that become really attached to what they do and they love what they do, but on the sort of like objective opinion about it, it sucks, I guess. Like, not a lot of people are going to listen to something that's kind of out of tune, out of time, not very well played. But, you know, you've got somebody that works so hard on it, and then they're trying to put it out there and they're getting frustrated with the fact that they're not getting a response. I think it's one thing to kind of like be confident and like know how to like put something together that you know is going to be universally accepted by other people. You want to kind of try and do stuff where the only opinion that someone has of your music is whether they like the song or not, as opposed to picking it apart because, you know, maybe the production sucks, or maybe like the guitar wasn't played well enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, all these kind of abstract things that don't really matter when the song, I suppose, is the thing that should be the focus. I try and do it. So like, I mean, I suppose it's difficult because everyone's going to have an opinion on everything. So if you think a production's great, someone else might think it sucks. If you think a guitar player's great, someone else might think it sucks. But I suppose it gets put into this general pool of it's good as a thing. Do you like it or don't you like it, kind of thing? So it's a bit more of a broad stroke emotional approach to, you know, how someone creates something. But there usually are fundamental checklists, at least for me, that I go through before I put a song out, just and you know, as to whether people are going to like it or not, and that's just objectively on the music, nothing else. But it takes a long time to kind of get to that point, and obviously people are I think you have to kind of like pick your battles with who you listen to and who you don't. General public, YouTube and all that kind of stuff. If I don't know them, or I feel like someone's just shit talking for the sake of shit talking, it's not really an opinion that I'm going to take on board. Do you know what I mean? But like, if it's somebody that I know personally and I trust, and we have like similar, like tastes in music or stuff like that, or it's somebody that I look up to, and then they're the ones that are like, because I respect their opinion. I know that what they've done before is good and I've enjoyed it. And if they have an opinion about what I'm doing, and they might go, yeah, it's cool, but you might want to consider this, that, and the other, then that's how you kind of learn to get to that point where you can just start creating and sort of like know that objectively within itself, it's good. It just depends on whether people like the vibe of whatever you're doing, I suppose. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain, like, because I mean, I sucked for a long time, like as a guitar player, before I got to a point where I felt comfortable enough with showing it to the world. So that period of sucking, I knew I did, and I was kind of eager to learn from people that didn't suck as much as me, so I could kind of like move to the next level. So, you always have to be open to like constructive criticism. Yeah, exactly. Because if you don't, you'll never kind of like grow. If you think that everything you do is amazing and you've got nothing to learn, then you've got nowhere to go. But at the same time, when you're writing your own music, you kind of have to go through that period to get to a point where you go, okay, from what I've learned and my experience of what is good and what is bad, I know that where this sits on the spectrum of that, and then I can start to kind of build from that, if you know what I mean. I think people need to get there when they're doing like music or whatever, or anything. It doesn't matter whether it's music or building houses or whatever. Most people have to train to a point where they know that their base level is accepted across the board, and then you can build on that, if you know what I mean. I feel like there are some people that kind of don't listen to anybody else, think they know it all, and they haven't done the base level work either, and then wonders why people aren't into their stuff. And then when you tell them they suck, or you try and be constructive about what it is that they're doing, they get really angry because, maybe deep down they kind of know, but they don't want to admit it. I mean, I've had that before, like, because, going back to your question about have they got it or have they not? I mean, musical talent, that I think does play a role, but I think it plays a role in terms of how quickly you can like learn stuff, and then that extra, I don't know, couple of percent that you have is like an awareness of the thing that you're doing, and that can sometimes put you above quite a lot of other people that are doing it. I remember, like, my mum used to say to me, like, well, obviously you want to do music for a living, but like, how can you know that like you're going to be successful when everyone else tries it and they don't? And it's like, well, you don't know that, but you have this inner thing that tells you that, oh, I don't know, I think I just might have this thing that a lot of other people don't have. You don't know what that is, you can't explain what it is, and you just kind of understand, but you still have to nurture it and do the work. You can't just rely on that. So I think people that have that generally kind of like stand above other people that don't, but it's not to say that you can't put the work in to become, a great player or great whatever it is that you're doing. But yeah, I think you always have to be a student of the game, and you always have to be like, how can this be better? How can this be? But at the same point, know that what you're doing is already good. You just need to learn how to refine it and make it better if you can. You know what I mean? Rather than, sitting back and going, yeah, this is the best it's ever going to be, so I'm just going to stay with that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. That's why this is going to be my first video podcast.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. God. I would have claimed the beard if I'd known.
No, it's like, yeah, I've held off because I'm like, oh, I don't know, and I just got video people, and I'm technically not great, but I just got people to help me with it. And I'm exactly what you said. I'm like, we're doing video, here we are, world. So it's exactly, but I think something really cool about what you said, for me, like, music and the music industry is my passion, and I've never wanted to be in a band. Like, I can't sing like Amy Lee from Evanescence, so if I can't be her, I want to do everything else. But one funny thing that stood out in life, like when I was figuring out that I want to do this, and this is like my passion, and this is what I want to go after, every time I made an accomplishment in my life, or I got a job, or like something cool really happened, and it didn't happen to do with didn't happen to be in the music industry or have something to do with the music industry, I got sad. So I would like achieve something like, oh, I got this job. And then I would get sad. I'd be like, oh, I did this. And, oh, but it's not hosting, it's not interviewing. And then I would get sad.
Yeah.
And that for me was always the thing of like, oh, but you're not doing your dream. You're not going.
Maybe the universe is trying to tell you something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I understand what you're saying. Totally. Yeah. I mean, school was kind of like that for me. I just always used to sit there and like mouse the science and just be like, fuck, I'm never going to need this. I don't need, I'm just sitting there. It's not like I'm sort of stupid or whatever, but I failed school miserably. I don't know about you, but like, I think you have to have like a want to do something in order to kind of apply yourself in the right way. Otherwise, if you can't, you're just going through the motions, you never really get the most out of it. So it kind of ends up being a bit of a waste of time, really. I mean, one of the main reasons why I got into music as well was kind of like a social acceptance, I suppose, like, because not a lot of kids that I knew that I was at school with were playing guitar or doing anything like that. So it kind of puts you in a bit of a minority. And when you do something that other people can't really fathom or understand, they just like, oh my God, you play 3 chords and it'd be the most amazing thing, So I guess for that was another reason I got into it.
Look and also, at you now. We just watch you all day long and we go, I just couldn't fathom, I couldn't imagine. And that's what it's kind of funny that you say that, because now we just all watch you and we're like, I couldn't imagine. That's in another category of something I could never do. Wow. So it's funny to hear you say that. Because that's what it is now. Like now we're up there watching you on stage going, wow, wow, that's so great. Wow, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's funny, isn't it? Like people's perception of you, and then how because obviously you're the only one that lives in your body, and you're looking outwards. Everyone's kind of looking in. So I suppose for me, like if I go in my studio or whatever, I'll just pick up a guitar and just start doing something. You don't really think about the pathway to all those years and hours and hours and hours of practice. Getting to that point to where you try and forget most of that, and you just try and instinctively do something when you're not thinking about any of that at all. But yeah, you just kind of take it for granted. I can't really remember a time in my life now where I wasn't able to just grab a guitar and do something with it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's kind of, it normalizes it quite a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't really sit there in awe or wonder of yourself like at all. You just kind of do the thing that you do and hope people like it, and it doesn't put you off at the same time. Like what I was saying earlier, if I can listen to something and be like, yeah, I can live with that, that's fine. Then I guess that's the best you can hope for. But yeah, the days of being amazed at myself are definitely non-existent,
Yeah, that's funny. So I have a question. Do you ever just sit down and play anything for fun? Like something that serves no purpose, but you feel like doing it?
Yeah. I mean, quite a lot of the time, if I'm sitting there watching telly or whatever, thinking, I don't know, just going, I fancy playing guitar. Like not every time I pick up a guitar is for work. Quite often I'll just sit, or I'll just, put the TV on and I'll just sit acoustically with with one of my electric guitars, because I don't have an acoustic here at the moment, but and just sit on and play unplugged and just kind of like noodle around. And sometimes when you're not concentrating on a particular thing and you're just noodling away, you might play something by accident where you'll be like, oh, that was cool. And then I'll just try and work on that. And then sometimes a song idea can come from that. When you're not actually focused on writing a song, it just sort of happens. Other times actually that happens is when you don't even have an instrument in your hand at all. And you'll have an idea pop into your head and you'll be like, fuck. And then you won't be able to get to a guitar quick enough to remember it. So I've kind of taken to, like, I've got loads of voice notes on my phone now where I'm just singing badly into it, going, oh, it's this riff. I've kind of got this idea and I'm almost describing it. But almost certainly every time I listen to them back and then I've got a guitar in my hand, the moment's gone, so.
Are you allowed to hum any riffs that are going to be on the new album? Is there one kind of hook you can? No.
I mean, you don't. I mean, yeah. That's the funny thing is, like, I can tell if something's in tune and out of tune, obviously, but
I'm out of tune. That's me.
Atonal, yeah. Yeah, I don't really have a voice. Like I can't control my vocal cords in a way that would be satisfactory for anyone to like lend their ears to, you know. So yeah, I'm not going to do that. But actually, there isn't really a lot of what's happening in the studio at the moment. It's just kind of like hashing out ideas and stuff. I don't think I've heard anything yet that's fully like done, finished, or whatever. I mean, it's only been like a few weeks anyway, and we're just talking about, you know, direction, how it's gonna be, sound, and all the rest of it. But obviously, I mean, I'm coming into a process that's already established. So, I mean, I'm only really kind of offering the odd opinion here and there when it's asked of me. So I'm kind of working my way up to being able to sit and go, oh yeah, what do you think of this? Or, you know, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's going to be like a new process for the rest of the guys in the band, bringing in, you know, a new person. Because obviously Jason was a big part of the writing for this band and stuff like that. And I mean, there are a lot of similarities like between him and me and him anyway. But like 10 years prior to even joining the band, like I was a fan of Death Punch, so I'm well aware of his style and his playing. And I dare say some of that's even rubbed off, you know, because in a lot of modern bands nowadays, there isn't really a huge amount of guitar solos being played. So like when you're listening to like newer stuff, that's like a band, say like Death Punch, that's rose up in relatively recently compared to a lot of other bands that might have already had that in the band. I suppose it's probably one of the only bands that I would listen to that probably had guitar solos in over some of the more modern stuff that I listen to, you know. So but obviously like I have like my old influences that I always listen to, you know, older albums that I'll always put on and always play when I kind of feel in the mood and stuff like that. So yeah, coming into this process after doing 8 records or whatever, yeah, I mean, I'm going to be able to bring something cool, no doubt. I've kind of already, you know, thrown a few ideas here and there, and it's not been completely no, that sucks or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Yeah,
yeah. I guess that's so many people would ask you like, what is left for you to accomplish, and I guess that's really exciting. That's must be what's exciting for you, is getting more entrenched in the process of, you know, becoming more and more and more a long-standing band member, because you get, you know, it's all a process of like getting into the fold with every little bit of everything. So I bet people would say like, what do you have left to accomplish, blah, blah, blah. And I guess that must be the fun part for you, is like getting into that process and being able to develop alongside your new bandmates. I guess, is that definitely like your biggest excitement with it? Is that where you have left to go?
Oh yeah, I mean, like this is almost like, I mean, I was going to say starting again. I mean, it's not really, because obviously I've been playing guitar for like 27 years. It's not like I'm suddenly going to learn something new from that point of view. But I think the thing that I'm going to learn is definitely their process of how they do stuff. Because obviously you're working with like, you know, multiple gold and platinum record selling like band and producer as well, you know what I mean? Because I mean, I mentioned that I went to school for like production and stuff like that when I was a lot younger, and I never really kind of got back into it again until probably around 2015, 2016. And ever since then, Kevin Churko and his son Kane Churko as well, they've actually been sort of production influences of mine quite heavily, in terms of like how to approach a mix or how to get something to sonically sit and do that kind of stuff. So it's pretty mad now to be sitting in the same room as him and kind of trading ideas and talking about that. Like, so yeah, that's cool. And I've got a lot of stuff that I want to learn out of that. And also, Zoltan's got a very unique mind when it comes to like writing and coming up with ideas. And, you know, he's got a very kind of hands-on, almost kind of like back to basics approach with how he comes up with ideas and stuff like that. But I think that's the kind of genius of it, you know, is it's not really entrenched in I don't know how to kind of like put this really. I think he just kind of like works very much in the moment and kind of like grabs ideas when they happen he doesn't go in with like any sort of like preconceived idea. He just wants to kind of like throw everything in and see what happens. So that's kind of a much different way of working than say that I would sit down and work and very methodically kind of like work through stuff and only entertain certain ideas because I know they'll work. So I guess, from my own point of view, I work well within my kind of like comfort zone that I've built up over the last sort of 10 years or whatever of doing my stuff. So it's kind of, I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone with this kind of thing, but like it won't be for long because I'm a pretty fast learner with stuff like that anyway, you know what I mean? And it's really interesting to me to see another approach because it obviously works, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm excited to kind of insert myself into that in some way or another.
I think that's
and
really
see what happens.
Sorry to cut you off. I think that's really exciting because so this funny little question, I haven't done it in a while, but what I always used to like to say to people I met on tour, I'd be like, if they'd be like, oh, what's your name? And I'd be like, oh, I'm this, what's your name? And then I would be like, have you lost your soul yet? Like, oh, how many weeks on tour are you in? Have you lost your soul yet? And that just means like, it's a funny joke, from the grudges of touring, but it means like, do you still care? Are you still passionate? Or like, is it, just like dialed in this one way? So I think it's like, you're dialed in the technical, like this is the formula. But I love that Zoltan, like after all of the success that he has had, from everything, like he still gets excited, or like album number 9, it's like still like, the passion and the fire of like where that all comes from. Cause you got to kind of wonder, it's like, it's such a, there's so much success. There's, the biggest producers in the world in the world. And I love that it's still like a spark that like gives you the idea and it's not just so regimented, I would say.
No, I mean, I have to agree kind of, I haven't been around him so much for the last, 5 months, I suppose, is like, he's very kind of, excited for the next phase of the band. And like, he's already got his kind of ideas about, where it should go and how it should be and stuff like that. And like, it's not just a kind of run of the mill thing. Oh, another record, we'll just do this, we'll have this, that, and the other, I mean, obviously there is a process that they have, which is kind of separate from that. But yeah, it's cool to like come in and it not be like, a bunch of jaded musicians that are kind of like, been there, done that, toured the world, made a load of money, done all this. And it's like, it isn't like that at all. It's still very much a fresh passion to kind of move on to the next thing and be like, right, how can we make this better than the last record? And, we've got kind of almost a couple of new challenges now, obviously, with me coming into the band and stuff like that. And, Charlie was new to the band for the last record. And in my opinion, that's one of the best records they've kind of done. So I actually think that, Five Finger Death Punch as a band has still got a lot to kind of say musically as a band and kind of grow and evolve. So yeah, I don't think it's a negative thing at all. I think it's a totally positive thing, the way things are going at the moment. I certainly don't feel like I've come into something where I'm like, oh, it's like when people sometimes say to you, like, be careful what you wish for, you know what I mean? Like when you kind of like finally get to where you feel like you want to be, and then it's just not what you think it's going to be, But I think my goals in life are different anyway. They've never been like financially driven or like, I mean, for want of a better phrase, ego driven, I suppose. I've always just wanted to kind of like go out there, have fun, do shows, write some cool music, and I don't know, make some sort of dent in the world, because we only have a short amount of time before, it's all over. And at least to have done something that people will remember, I suppose. That's it really. And something I'll be proud of. And I won't be like on my deathbed going, oh, I wish I'd have done this, that, and the other, So yeah, I mean, I never thought in a million years I'd end up in like one of the bands that I've been a fan of for so long. But it's funny how things work out. I mean, I only met Zoltan about 6 months before I actually came out on tour with them anyway. And I think he'd been following me on Instagram, because that's the thing about Zoe, is like, he doesn't do like a huge amount of like lead guitar or shredding or stuff like that, but he appreciates people being good at whatever they're doing. It doesn't have to be guitar; it can be anything. And I guess me and Charlie knew each other before he joined the band, because we'd already done a tour together. So I think they were having like a discussion about guitar players, just music in general, and my name came up, I guess. And he then contacted me about another band that he was looking after, and was kind of asking me about guitar players, and we kind of got talking about that. And then it turns out the band was the Butcher Babies, right? Because they were looking at expanding their band members and maybe going in a slightly different direction. And I think that's kind of how I got involved with that whole thing, was through Zoltan, because he was helping them out a little bit. And then while I was out in Arizona, I came back to LA after we'd been to Arizona, and I was like just kind of hanging around, staying with my old manager in Glendale, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to go out for dinner?" So we did. We went out for dinner for like 4 hours, just me and him, like chatting, and realized we kind of like got on really well and stuff like that. And I was quite surprised actually at how normal he was, just talking about stuff, music. He's just generally a music fan, you know what I mean? So it was like the whole perception of the rock star thing, and that had died pretty quickly once you kind of just start having a normal conversation with someone. You realize they're just just normal. I mean, it's not as if I'd never like met anybody that had done stuff before. Quite a lot of my guitar influences growing up have actually become friends of mine now, so it's kind of like, it's just weird how that happens. But then you kind of, that kind of starstruck thing goes out, and you just kind of treat every scenario as it's like, okay, it's just one person having a conversation with another person, and whether you kind of like vibe or not, I suppose. I don't know whether it helps that we have the same birthday and like we have a lot of the same outlooks on life and stuff like that, I suppose. And maybe it just stuck in his mind because he already knew me as a guitar player anyway. And fast forward 5 months, I think, I just randomly get a text message one day going, what's your music retention like? And I was just like, I don't know, what do you mean? What, like learning songs? And he was just like, yeah.
So mess it up. What did you say?
Well, no, he... I was just like,
are we kidding, or will this be held against me later? What?
No, well, I didn't want to jump the gun and go, oh, yeah. I was kind of like, oh, what are we talking here? Like, just remembering songs and stuff. I mean, this is like paraphrasing. I don't know the exact, I can't remember now because it was a year and a half ago. But he was just like, yeah, because I might need you to learn our live set. I'll have someone like send it over to you. And because Jason was having a few health problems. And I think in order for them to like continue doing the tour rather than cancel it, because they were on tour with like Megadeth and Bad Wolves, it's not a big arena tour, you know what I mean? I think the last resort would have been to have had to have stopped, packed up everything and gone home, sort of thing. And they really didn't want to do that. So I think he reached out to me and was just like, yeah, do you think you could do it? And I was just like, well, I mean, I wasn't going to say no, but obviously in the back of my mind I was thinking, fuck, this is going to be a challenge, right? So he sent me the set anyway, and I knew the songs, but I'd never really played any of them. So I had to kind of figure out the tunings and some of the solos and stuff like that. And actually, every individual member of that band is talented as fuck. You know what I mean? And like they just so happen to be successful. But if they were going to do a death metal album, they probably could. So it's like when you're kind of like sitting down learning some of that stuff. I mean, obviously Jason's a great player as well, so it's not like the easiest thing to sit there and learn and go, yeah, this is a piece of piss, you know what I mean? So yeah, I had like a couple of days to go through that stuff and get it as best as I could, to then come out on tour and try and do a convincing enough job where it would fit in with the level of musicianship with the rest of the guys, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was a hairy moment, because the day later I had a plane ticket waiting for me. Like, it was almost a bit like fucking, the film Rockstar, where he gets a phone call and he's just like, yeah, there's a ticket waiting for you at LAX, like, to come out and audition for the band. And that's pretty much the same thing. Like, I've been a fan of this band all that time, and then all of a sudden I get a phone call from the band to go and do it. So yeah, I got out. They had a couple more shows, and then that was it. We were in Germany, and my first show came around, and it was like, up you go then. Just get on with it. So yeah, it went pretty well. Like, I mean, even like the first gig, you know, I was kind of like, I don't know, was it all right? And the rest of the guys were so cool. Like, I remember like when we were sat in Zoltan's dressing room, and Ivan came in as well, because Ivan was the only person I hadn't like sort of met fully. We'd said hello and stuff at Wembley and that, and chatted a little bit, but like hadn't really had like a full blown conversation about, you know, what was going to happen and how things were going to play out and stuff. So like, you know, Ivan comes in, he just seems like genuinely excited, and he's just like, look, you know, we really want you to kind of like enjoy this, and you know, obviously we want this to go well, because we've got these shows to do, and like nobody's looking at you kind of like judging, thinking, oh fucking hell, you know, fuck that up, did this and the other. So it's like they made me feel really welcome, and I was like, okay, cool. If I just play the songs as they're meant to go, look like I'm having a good time. Because that's the thing. I mean, it's not as if I didn't have a good time, but for at least the first 3 shows, I was thinking, fucking hell, because there's just so much going on to remember. You know what I mean, with that type of production and everything. So yeah, it took about 3 or 4 shows before I kind of really forgot about the fact that I was, you know, filling in and just kind of like, I guess, finishing a tour for a band, and started feeling like one of the guys in the band, and actually going and doing the shows as if I was doing it like permanently. So yeah, by the end of the tour, you know, we kind of like had a really good feeling about it. I mean, I didn't know the internal politics and stuff like that with everything else that happened afterwards was not something I was like privy to. So I wasn't really involved in that. I just know that like some months later that there was murmurs of going, well, we're thinking actually that this could be more of a permanent thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I am so excited about, like, I mean, some people think something, some people think different things, but, you know, with a band that has been around for so long, you kind of get nervous of like people who have toured that long to know, like, are they going to keep doing this for us? Are they going to keep like, you know, like giving up their entire year for us? You know what I mean? As a fan, you always wonder that. So I loved hearing that Zoltan is like, okay, this is our new phase of the band. Like, I think every Five Finger Death Punch fan is going to be so excited to hear that, and to hear that, like, you're not, you know, slowing down, you know, you're not, you know, just like, oh, we go in, we play shows, we do that, we make money, we go places. And the fact that he's like passionate, planning for like the next phase, that's so exciting to me. That's going to be so exciting for all these other Five Finger Death Punch fans to hear, all these knuckleheads out in the world. Like, that's cool. That's exciting.
I mean, the way I think about it as well is like you say, using that terminology of like the next phase of the band, because I don't see myself as like Jason's replacement necessarily, because I'm not going to come in and try and play like him and do like, and you know, because I suppose I could. I mean, for the first 7 years of my career, I was like a guitar impressionist for a long time for Lick Library, like playing other people's stuff and trying to sound like them. So, you know, I think that would kind of be a mistake. You know, it's like he has his sound, he has his, you know, approach and everything that he's kind of put to the band. And I think that's such an important period of like, you know, where the band started and where they've come to now. And it's just like, I feel like this is the next phase of that band. And then I'm going to be taking that role and bringing what I do to the table. And I think the rest of the guys in the band are excited about where that can potentially go, you know, because obviously here's the other thing as well, is like, they're never going to let anything go out of the studio that sucks or isn't what they would want to do or their vision anyway. Do you know what I mean? So my involvement, or even Charlie's involvement, you know, we bring something to the table to try and enhance what Death Punch already or do, or maybe try and take something and like move it. I wouldn't say enhance, because that would like imply that we coming in would make it better than before. That's not what I meant. I just meant that, you know, we could come in and take things in a slightly different direction, but build on. That's kind of what I meant. Like, build on the sort of sound and songs and the sound of the band that already exists. So yeah, it's definitely a new phase and less a replacement and more just a kind of next chapter. You know what I mean? That's how I think about it anyway. I know there's probably going to be fans out there that be like, well, it's not going to be the same band anymore and this kind of thing. And it's like, well, I mean, in many ways, I guess they're right, but I don't know whether that should be viewed upon as a negative thing. I mean, at least until we do an album with this lineup and then make that decision, you know what I mean? And then be like, oh yeah, you know, actually this is kind of cool, or it's still Death Punch, but it's slightly different, or whatever, you know what I mean? So I'm excited to see what will come out of this, definitely. But like I say, you know, there is definitely a solid committee that has always existed within that band that, you know, it's not going to sound like a completely different band. You know what I mean? It's not going to be like, oh, suddenly we're going to do some weird like psychedelic prog album. You know, it ain't going to be like that. So it's still going to be Death Punch. It's just the next phase of it. You know.
Well, that would be a waste of a life and a waste of creativity and a waste of your God-given talent just to try and be like something else or try and be exactly like you're so much better than that. So that would be a total waste for sure. And I love that you were talking about those first couple shows, because one of the questions I had in my mind was like, okay, were you able to like, okay, look down, play. Oh my God, am I looking at the fans? Like the pyro, the pyro behind me, smile at the crowd. Pyro behind me again, like smile.
Yeah.
I'm playing. Oh crap, the crowd's there. Hey.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah, that's not too far from the truth, to be honest with you. So yeah, like I mean, I'd never like wore in-ears before, so I wasn't really, you know, too overly keen on doing that, because I've always been like, because Ivan doesn't either, and like for the same reason I've never done it up to this point, is that I don't like hearing myself at all, like when I'm playing live. So I would rather sound like I'm in the next room, and that would make me feel like I'm just not really aware of what I'm doing, and then for some reason or another, gigs go a lot better that way for me than they do when all I can hear is me and I can't hear anything else. So I was slightly nervous about that, but the guys are so professional, like the mixing monitor engineers that we had and stuff, they made everything sound great. So that was kind of a worry been and gone straight away for me. Because usually as well, like when you're wearing like in-ears and stuff, it can isolate you in terms of like, you don't hear the crowd, you're not aware of any of the ambience going on, you're just getting direct feed of whatever's going in. Whatever you've asked for, so that can be a little bit weird as well, but yeah, you get over that, it's fine. I mean, like, you know, in those types of venues and audiences, it's so hard not to be intoxicated by that anyway, and whether you're kind of getting the full thing in your ears or not. So there's that. I mean, Ivan's pretty lively on stage, so you kind of got to watch out for that. Obviously there's pyro and stuff going, but there is a manual guy that, like, if you can see that someone's wandered too close to the thing, it's not going to go off. But, you know, obviously all the rest of the guys in the band know when that stuff's happening, so they're all going to be in certain places to allow that stuff to go off, so it doesn't like ruin the show. And, you know, again, it was something that I had to kind of learn as I was going, and then, you know, eventually. So, but no one got burnt, so that was good.
There you go. That's
and
awesome.
Then, yeah, there was a few confused faces, like because that initial kind of what do they call it? Well, let's just call it curtain, sheet thing kind of drops down, and then you start playing, and I immediately noticed that there was a few people in the front going, hey, who the fuck is that? That is not
what happened? What's going on? What's happening here?
So I mean, I put a post up on my Instagram, but obviously, you know, not everyone's gonna see that, and I think the Death Punch Instagram and Facebook or whatever, they did put a thing out saying, oh, you know, this is what's happening. So that was that. So at least it wasn't like a complete surprise moving forward within that tour that you know, the lineup had changed intermittently for that. But so that was kind of it as well. But then again, I wasn't like thinking, oh fucking hell, you know. I was just like, look, you know, these people paid to come and see the band, they're paying to come and see a show, so that's what you got to do, you know. And it was kind of
play the songs. I'm going to look at the crowd, and I'm going to watch the pyro. So,
and that's and then bearing in mind all the other stuff as well, you know what I mean? So it's a long way from playing down the local pub, I know that much.
Exactly.
But I haven't done that for a while either, so it's kind of like it'd be weird doing that now, you know, going just playing in front of 30 people in a pub. But some of those gigs are still some of the best gigs you can do, you know.
Would you go do that now if there's like a bar doing an open mic?
Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but I know if I, in downtime or whatever, I probably will, because a lot of people have asked me about whether I'll continue doing solo stuff and instrumental stuff, and the short answer is yes, I'm going to continue doing that. So at some point when there's downtime and we're not like touring or we're having time off or whatever, then I dare say I'll probably go out and do some stuff, and then that probably will be more pub club venues, unless for some weird reason that becomes a bigger thing. But I don't know. I mean, I just that thing in my career, the instrumental thing, the guitar thing, has always kind of like run simultaneously with trying to do a band as well. And then the band kind of gets to a certain point, fails, and then I just kind of carry on doing the instrumental thing. And I'm kind of glad I did in a way, because I suppose me carrying on doing that, I ended up on Zoltan's radar from him scrolling through Instagram and going, oh yeah, who's this guy? Follow sort of thing. So I guess if I kind of wasn't still doing that, then I wouldn't have been as present maybe online as I have been doing that stuff.
Absolutely. So funny question. Would you rather be a rock star now or a rock star back in the 80s?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd have been a very good rock star even back then.
I mean, now that I'm older and old, I'm like, God, that sounds terrible. Like, oh, I couldn't do it. What about you?
I don't know. I mean, I've had my fair share of like tours, sleeping on the floor in a van, pissed out your fucking head, like, staying up till all hours, going and do like some mad shit that you just probably wouldn't do now. But yeah, so I don't know. Like, I mean, my life's never been like Motley Crue out of the dirt or anything,
Yeah.
But I haven't, it's not been completely. I don't know. It's hard actually, because like there has been some moments where that's kind of stuff like that has happened, but I don't know. Trouble is like when you're so wasted, you don't really remember a lot of that stuff. So I would have to have somebody or a few people in the room now telling me, "Oh yeah, do you remember that time?" And you'd be like, "Fucking hell, yeah." Things that you'd probably try and put out of your mind. So yeah, I know there's definitely been some, kind of 80s rock starry moments that have happened on tour, but I haven't toured enough with Death Punch to kind of know what that's like. But I know, me and Charlie are like, fairly close in terms of like we'll go out and have drinks together and stuff, and go out and check out the local bars and the town and stuff, because I guess we're both like that. We come from that culture where we will go out and do that sort of thing. Whereas I don't know, Zoe's more of a kind of Renaissance man. You know what I mean? He like kind of has his sort of environment and stuff like that, and I don't know, like so. And then yeah, Chris as well. He's definitely a social butterfly as well. So like. Yeah, me, Chris, and Charlie definitely like hang out when like after shows and stuff and do that kind of thing. And that's it, really. I haven't really toured enough like with Ivan to sort of like no. But the thing is, like me and Ivan have sat down and we have like sort of like conversations and stuff. So it's more that kind of thing. Talking about music or just like life in general or anything like that. You know what I mean? So it's like having different relationships with people in the band. I think it's cool because like I get on like really well with everyone, but like we have like different levels of communication, I suppose, in terms of like the types of people they are. Like for me, I'm kind of like happy to sit in anyone else's space, and like either learn something or kind of like experience a different interaction, I suppose, than maybe just kind of, well, I'm me and I'm going to insert this personality into everything. You know what I mean? So like. Yeah. Because I suppose, like throughout my music career, that's been fairly beneficial to be that way, especially with doing a varied amount of different gigs and sessions and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah. So, but it's a really good vibe, like with everyone in the band. Like, there's no weirdness or anything like that, and everyone's like really positive for what's going to come next. So, hopefully, soon everyone else will hear what that is.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about, you talked a lot about the process of the new album. So You guys are just to reiterate about the new big announcement, you're just kind of hashing out ideas right now. So like no major concepts.
Yeah.
And I want
No, I mean, as far as I know at present, yeah, it's just kind of hashing out like different ideas, just laying down bits and pieces, and just seeing where the vibe of this album's going, and that's it really.
Cool. And I wanted to acknowledge, and anytime the whole reason why I interview or ever wanted to interview was to be able to say thank you. And, you and I go back and forth all the time of like, I didn't write it, don't tag me in it. And I'm like, I'm tagging you anyway, take it, whatever. But the song A Little Bit Off was,
right.
It was just like a hug for everyone. And I send that song to friends who are having a bad day, who don't like rock or metal. And it resonates, so if I have the short opportunity just to say thank you so much for, being a part of it, that song touches people's lives. And that really touched my heart so many times for sure. But are you guys, this is kind of a thing I was thinking about. A Little Bit Off was kind of a song for COVID. Are you guys going to be writing something like A Little Bit On? Like a coming out of COVID song? I'm a little bit off. I feel weird. I'm getting out of my house today, whatever. It seems like a funny theme or something of like, that was the COVID song. And like on the new one, do we have like a fuck COVID song or a COVID's over song?
Yeah, like I don't know conceptually if it's really gone like that far down yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, it depends, because obviously Ivan is the guy that kind of writes the lyrics and the songs, and from the vocal perspective. So like, I mean, like you say, I mean, I can't take credit for that because I didn't, play on it or write on it or do anything. But like, I appreciate the sentiment. But like, yeah, it's a different direction for them as well. Like, obviously, they're always trying to like push different things into an already established sound. Just trying to change it up a little bit. And I suppose it was a bit of a curveball initially, like, because weirdly, like I sort of, the album came out before. No, the album came out, I think, just after I like joined the tour or whatever. But I did hear the album in its entirety before it came out, because I already had it, and it was just like, oh, do you want to hear some new stuff? I was like, yeah, go on then, because I already heard Inside Out and Full Circle had already come out before any of this happened. So yeah, when A Little Bit Off came out, I was just like, wow. Initially I was kind of like, well, this is really different, like, and then it's just one of those songs where like it's just catchy as fuck, and it's just really well written, and it's clever, like vocally as well, because it really does resonate with, I suppose, with how people get up and how they feel on any given day. And I suppose during COVID, a lot of those days would probably be like, oh, fucking hell, I've just gone to sleep and woken up and I didn't die, and now I've got to get through another day, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, that could be a song for like Monday morning. People get up after a weekend of being on the booze and that, and just being, got to go to work and waiting for the weekend to come again, sort of thing. So I think the cool thing about Ivan and his approach to like what he writes and what he sings about is it's very it's easy to get into, because it kind of resonates with so many people. Like, he just has this way of being able to like speak to a lot of people in one 3.5, 4 minute song. You know what I mean? And that's kind of, I would say, that is his genius, I would say. Not to mention the vocal melodies and stuff like that, which obviously kind of sell the song. But I see, obviously, because there's other songs that have a lot of swearing in them and stuff like that, and I think people listen to those songs and almost kind of like base their opinion on, oh, well, this is just fucking, aggressive, like ego music or whatever. But it really isn't, like, because it's the same with the guitar playing. If you actually sat like 10 different guitar players down and go, right, play this or whatever, it'd be like, oh, fuck, yeah, actually, you know what? That's pretty challenging. And it'd be the same with his sort of vocal writing. It's like, well, actually, you know what? Some of it's poetry in a way, you know what I mean? So like songs like A Little Bit Off and stuff illustrate that perfectly, in my opinion. And I think that's why so many people resonate with what he writes.
It's so important to thank you guys. And it's kind of like why I always tag you and everything. It is so important that like you guys know, which of course you do, but like how much the music always means, like, and how you touch people's lives. Like, you know, it's a lot of time out of your schedule and touring and things like that. But Ivan's music, there's just been so many songs from the first album that have been consistent that he has been writing, and things that have been very difficult in my life. The Five Finger Death Punch music has always completely touched my heart and got me through really tough things. And it's always been like a really good go-to for exactly how I'm feeling with a lot of different emotions. So I think there's no part of Five Finger Death Punch that is like sell out or doesn't have heart or got too big or like isn't genuine. I've never understood that. Never.
No, I mean, like going sort of extending on that point, I think like with Ivan, most definitely, like he's fucking lived it, you know. It's not as if he's writing about someone else's life or someone else's emotions, you know. Like he's definitely had his ups and downs, if you know what I mean. So like, yeah, there's a lot of, he pours pretty much a lot of himself into any of that stuff, you know. I mean, I haven't known him very long, but from what I do know, like he's, you know, pretty passionate about like his art and what he does, and you know what I mean. And I think it means a lot to him to kind of get these songs out that represent who he is. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's it, and it's great that it's amassed the sort of platform it has in order for him to do that as well. You know, so I guess that's the kind of the goal for anybody who expresses themselves, especially vocally, you know, is like getting it out to the world. And if you can kind of help another person along the way, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the thing about music. You know, we was talking about technique earlier and how that's only a very small aspect of it. I think, you know, no matter how good you are, technically gifted you are, or what your focus is, you know, from more of a technical standpoint, I suppose, the only important thing about music is how it makes someone feel emotionally, whether it's good, bad, and you know, or whatever. Because then you know you've written something that affects somebody. You know, if your music just washes over somebody, then we've kind of not done the job. I think, yeah. And you know, and that doesn't just go for the people that, you know, that feel a kinship with Ivan and his lyrics, and the fact that people feel that it represents them in their own life and how they're feeling at the moment. But I suppose it almost, on the flip side, is the hate part of how much, you know, negative hate the band gets as well. Because like, if something didn't kind of do something to you emotionally, you wouldn't have such an extreme response to something. So that's what I mean when I say like good or bad. Because even the bad, it elicits some sort of response, and you think, well, okay, I've touched a nerve there, or I've done something. Because like, not everybody's going to be honest with you why something makes them angry, because it might be something they're embarrassed about themselves, or like, you know, maybe something that Ivan said in a song has found somebody out emotionally and made them feel that actually they've been covering up their emotions, and it just makes them angry. And I don't know whether they have an angry reaction towards the band or even Ivan for making them feel that way. You know what I mean? Like, anger's funny because it's not a cut and dried emotion. Like, I mean, a lot of people spread a lot of hate online and stuff like that, but it's very rarely for the reason that it's perceived to be. You know what I mean? There'll be some underlying thing going on, or whatever. I mean, even if people are just doing it to be a dick, there's a reason why someone's doing something to just be a dick. And usually it's, if you get to the bottom of it and what it is that's bugging somebody, you know what I mean? You can understand the response a lot more than you can if you just take it at face value, you know, which is why I don't really get done in, like, personally, when people say hateful stuff towards me online or whatever. Because you know, I've throughout my life kind of felt like that towards other things myself, and I've understood that maybe the anger isn't necessarily aimed at the thing that I'm angry at. There's a whole other load of things that are collected in one thing, and that just happens to be the catalyst for you to kind of release that emotion, if you know what I mean. But I don't know if it's because I feel like if you go through life and you end up in a scenario where you've had like some therapy, or you have to kind of really look at stuff to do with your own personality or whatever that you're not necessarily happy with. But you have a choice, you can either bury your head in the sand and just pretend that it's not there, or you can actually do something about it. And I usually feel like people that have done some sort of work on themselves, to try and genuinely better themselves internally, usually understand when somebody has a reaction to them that it might not actually be the thing that they're angry at, So you can, quite often I've spoken to people online that have said something really hateful to me, but then I've responded in a fairly normal manner. And then actually after about 2 or 3 texts, they've kind of come down off the ceiling and you realize they're just a normal person that are fucking pissed off with something in their life or whatever. And it's not even necessarily anything that you've done. Because let's face it, who really gets that angry with someone for writing a song?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense for somebody to just be like, "Oh, fuck you, suck." And it's just like, actually, is there something else going on? Because generally, 9 times out of 10, it usually is, unless you really are that much of an arsehole. You just like creating pain and misery online, in which case, fair enough, crack on. But
it's a funny way to look at it. I never thought of it as being like, it's so good, it pisses you off. That's kind of funny. It's so good, it makes you angry. I've never thought of it like that.
I suppose I mean, because everyone sort of has a perception, I suppose. And if they perceive that someone's doing better than they are, and they can't accept that, then that can come out as anger, you know what I mean? Or if they feel like, say, for example, there's someone who's really successful and they're doing something that you want to do, but you feel like they don't deserve it for whatever reason, then you're going to be angry at them. And I don't know, maybe it turns out that you're kind of angry at yourself because you know that they just put in more work within the same 24 hours that you have, and you know that internally you could be there if you'd have done the work, but you didn't. So you're just angry at them because they did, sort of thing. So that's what I'm saying. It's you can be angry at someone for doing something, but it's probably not necessarily because you're angry with them. It's more likely to be that you're angry with yourself in a way. And because they've made you recognize that, that's where it comes from. I mean, I don't know. It sounds
so good. It's eliciting, it's triggering something in you. That's what I meant to say. I haven't thought about that. And that's a really fun thing. I'm putting that in my little arsenal of things to say when people oh, fuck that band, or oh, I don't like that band, or I don't like that song. You're like, why? But why are you so passionate about not liking it? Really must really touch you in some way, somewhere. So it's kind of I like the way that you said that and the way that you explained that. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's only a perception. It's not fact. You know what I mean? I mean, I could be totally wrong.
Nope. That was it. That was right. Nope. We're not going from it. That's exactly what it was. No. So I'm from Dallas. I'm from Deep Ellum. It's an area you probably don't know about yet. You probably will the more you tour the States. So it's the rock metal, used to be the rock metal area in downtown Dallas. And I would hang out at the metal bar, and I don't like to disagree with other people. And I've always been such a big Five Finger Death Punch fan. And I don't buckle at all, but I mean, the lyrics, where did I go wrong? Who was I supposed to be? Just right there, the pain and the anguish of where did I go wrong? Who was I supposed to be? No matter what I said. Oh yeah, no matter what I did or what I said, you always criticize me. That song's my mother, and it's just there's everything is your music is so much better than the shit talkers. It just reminded me, it took me back, because I've heard that song play in Reno's and Deep Ellum so many times. It's just my early 20s. I remember hearing that specific song, and it's just the talent of Five Finger is so undeniable, and the lyrics and the passion and everything is so undeniable. But I've heard both sides of that conversation of oh, Five Finger Death Punch sucks, whatever. Oh, blah, blah, whatever. And then people no, I like them. And it's I've heard the back and forth of it, and it's absolute bullshit. And it's just people saying it, parodying it, because they heard it from someone who got triggered by something they didn't accomplish in life, in my opinion. And then, that's what we were talking about. I was with you the whole time, and it's not just in your head.
No,
It's like the whole process of how all that happens is so real. I've heard it many times,
Yeah, I mean, look, if someone, genuinely has sat down and listened to, I mean, not just this band, but any band and gone, yeah, this sucks, it's not for me, then fine. Yeah. That's totally cool as well, you know what I mean? But like, I always like to just at least hope that if someone's going to have an opinion on something, it is based on some real world scenario where they've actually experienced the thing that they're having an opinion on, to then go, I like this, I don't like this, you know what I mean? Like, so
but unless it's Five Finger Death Punch, because they're just good. They're just
I mean, but I
there's no other opinion than they're the fucking best. There's no other opinion.
No, okay, but no, I was just going to say, like, I think, even like sitting down and talking with Zoltan, and because like, obviously the members are aware that this goes on. You know what I mean? It's not something that they're like, oh, really? I thought everyone liked it, but it's not like that at all. But it's funny hearing him like talk about it, and it's in some ways, I think he kind of enjoys the light and dark of how people view the band. I think he thinks it's like healthy in a way. And the music elicits such a kind of like extreme response, either from one side to the other, that I think if it didn't, then maybe when we're not doing anything, we're not doing the right thing. We need to kind of.
I love that. And I'm going to use that as an audio clip to promote the podcast, because that was a great line. I love it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So you are a Kiesel guitar player. You have your own line of guitars. You have your own guitar. Tell me about Kiesel and why you like them.
It's kind of like a funny beginning, really, with that, because I was with ESP for a long time. I had a signature guitar with them. And I don't know, like, things were kind of like, we were just kind of like maybe growing apart, artist and company kind of thing. I think I just wanted different things out of the relationship than maybe they were willing to offer, I suppose. And so I was thinking I was in the market for a change, moving to another company. So I've been seeing, Kiesel on the market, and been seeing a lot more people posting about them. And actually the tour that I was on with Charlie, which was with Angel Vivaldi, like you mentioned Dallas, we played there. I think there's a place called, is it Loving Touch there? Is that it? Is that Dallas? Loving Touch, is it?
Sounds like a strip club. Love and Touch?
No, Loving Touch, or what is it?
Oh, it still sounds like a strip club. I don't know.
I don't know. What's the venues in?
So there's Bomb Factory, there's like Smirnoff, there's Tree. Okay, you want to play Trees, but there's Bomb Factory. That's in Deep Ellum. Did you go to Deep Ellum? So like downtown area?
No. Oh yeah, we were at Houston as well. There was what was that place? Scout Bar?
Yeah, Scout Bar.
Okay, yeah, we did that.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, what is that?
But anyways, but
Texas?
yeah.
I'm sure I've seen you like go and see bands there. I don't know.
Oh, maybe me at Scout Bar?
No. This place that I'm in my brain, I'm thinking is called the Loving Touch. What is this fucking place?
I've never heard of anything called the Loving Touch. It sounds like a.
I don't know. It's really doing my head in now, because I'm sure.
Is there like?
Forget this part of the podcast. Just cut this out. You'll have to just start again.
But, we're gonna leave it, and we're gonna find out what the Loving Touch is.
Yeah, what the fuck is this place? I'm gonna have to look now, because I'm sure I've seen you.
No,
it's something Touch.
Come and Take It.
Oh, that's it.
Oh yeah, no, that's like a club.
Why the fuck was I thinking about? Right, you're gonna have to Come and Take It live. That's right. That's it. Yeah, that's in Texas, right?
Yeah, I work with them. I host Instagram lives for them. It's like my new hometown metal venue. Like I've had to switch. Like I lived in Dallas and I had Trees and like Bomb Factory. And now I'm not in Deep Ellum and I'm sad. And now I'm at Come and Take It Live. So I'm building my little heart happy place at Come and Take It Live now.
I'm typing this place in now to see what comes up.
Right.
Yeah, it is a live venue. It's in Michigan.
Oh, okay.
It's, Ferndale.
I thought you were going to be like, oh yeah, it is a strip club I've been to. Yeah.
No. If
It
only.
just sounds like a strip club to me. I don't know why.
No. There you go. I was just thinking, I knew there was a place called that. It was fucking doing my head in.
Okay.
I was just like, no, but yeah, that's it. But that wasn't anywhere near Texas, so it's fine.
I've never been to Michigan, but I love that you look at me and think Michigan, so that's cool.
Oh, really? I don't know. I don't know where that came from.
I've never been. There you go.
Right.
Okay. So it was a funny story how you got with Kiesel. So you were shopping around looking for a new guitar opportunity.
Yeah, well, I've been seeing Kiesel on the market like for a while. You know, people playing them and stuff. And I was actually when I said about like playing with Charlie, is on that tour with Angel Vivaldi. So we were just doing this like instrumental tour, and Angel's guitar player Jason, but it's funny hearing him talk about it, and he had a couple on the road and played them, and they were great. And the other guitar player, Chris Letchford from Scandalous Summit, he had a very different guitar, like these headless, healthy, which is his, and the music them, and I played that as well. And I was like, wow, these are two completely different guitars, but I was able to play them both, I think, fairly comfortably. If it felt great, then maybe. So, and I'd seen a bit of like Jeff online with like different people and stuff, and I'd seen the guitars and they were really cool. And I at the time, even though me and ESP were kind of I don't know, not really communicating as well as we should do, during that time we were planning on putting out another signature AJ model that was like a white 7-string, which was like a new model with a new bridge on it called the Evertune, right? So that was coming out, but I didn't even own one of those guitars for like ages. I had to retrofit one of my older guitars to have the Evertune on it. And I think that's kind of where the problem came, was the fact that I needed this guitar like really badly, and it was just so difficult to like get anything out of them that I needed that was going to be the next model that we were talking about. So that's kind of where the problems started happening. So it wasn't until like the NAMM that guitar was going to get released that I met Jeff Kiesel. And I didn't want to make a hard and fast decision about changing companies because I hadn't met the guy. I wanted to know if we were going to vibe and stuff like that. And, and again, it's these things where you hear like rumors and opinions online, and some of them are, less favorable than others. And I tend to like never really take people's opinions like that. And insert them into my own opinion database until I've actually experienced it for myself. So I was kind of thinking, all right, because I'd seen a lot of positive stuff about Jeff Kiesel as well, but I wanted to at least speak to him and see if we were going to get on. So NAMM show, I go by the Kiesel booth. We hit it off great. We're talking about it. He hands me a couple of guitars, and there was one guitar in particular that stuck out to me as one that I thought, yeah, we could build on this and do something really cool, which was the Crescent model, which is something that was already existed. The only thing that's different about my guitar compared to the just standard Crescent model is the bottom horn, because it's a double cutaway guitar. So the bottom part, there's slightly more shaved out of that bottom piece, just so it doesn't interfere with the fingers as much up that high in the neck. That's the only aesthetical change that we made. And then there's like a bunch of like headstock, different stuff like that. But the main things that we worked on was how we were going to present the guitar in terms of like how they were going to look and stuff. And I had some ideas and he had some ideas, and we kind of joined them, and we ended up with the sort of colours of the rainbow that you see now, like with all the different ones, and the pickups as well. So the pickups in the guitar are called polarities. They're basically active pickups. But we backed and forth quite a lot about the tone of those pickups. Now, they're not necessarily a signature pickup, like they're not, these are the AJ pickups or whatever. Because we were like, well, we didn't really want to put that as like a signature model pickup, if you know what I mean. We just kind of like, he picked my brain about the things I liked most about what I was using and the things that I liked and all the rest of it. And then we kind of like did some work on the pickups to voice them that way. So yeah, people can get them, and they're called the polarities, but they are based on, me and Jeff backing and forthing about how we think they should sound. And my guitars have definitely gone through a few different changes of volume knob and pickup configurations in terms of like, because there's a push pull on the guitar, so you can change the voicings and stuff. So I've got a bunch of guitars that are wired differently, that they're not necessarily ones that people get. But the main white one that I play is exactly wired like what you can buy direct from Kiesel. It's just that I wanted a few different options for different sounds, and I'm just a bit weird like that, you know. And he was like, look, you know, whatever you want, we'll do. And I think that's the thing as well. It's like, even though Kiesel sort of then, and maybe even now, it's a different kind of market because it's a direct to consumer market model, you know, business model that they've got going on. Whereas like ESP, they're a big company. They have like their custom shop and they distribute all over the world with the guitars. It's a different thing entirely. So I don't know if you can compare the company sizes, but in terms of like popularity, Kiesler are definitely up there at the moment in terms of like one of the sort of go-to models that a lot of people are starting to kind of move from other companies to go and play that guitar, whether it be either an artist or as just a consumer. But yeah, it was like, he was like, look, I can do whatever you want. You know, we can do this with the paint job. We can do this with the pickups, you know, in terms of like the color and stuff like that. You know, where do you want, you know, what kind of paint style do you want? So obviously you've got like shiny paint, and then we had like gloss, because I've been using like matte finish on my last guitars, and I really like how that, because that does actually gloss out. So satin, after a while, when you play it, it kind of smooths out. So the guitar neck is very different on my guitars than, say, like the front of the body. And actually, on a lot of my guitars, if you notice, the little finger is rubbed on the guitar so much, it's actually made a shiny patch where the rest of it's satin. So it kind of rubs off eventually if you polish it enough. But yeah, I don't know, like, you know, the woods that we wanted to use as well. You know, I told Jeff kind of the sort of sound that I like, and we went through a few different combinations of woods before we landed on what we ended up with. And the whole process was just really easy, and it was just really accommodating. And it was, you know, like, even if I called him up now and goes, oh, I need this, he'd just be like, yeah, cool. All right, we'll put it in, get it done. And that's it. And aside from that, you know, we get on great. I mean, we'll be on the phone sometimes for like an hour and not even talk about music or guitars at all, you know what I mean? So it's kind of, it's definitely more important for me to have cool relationships like that with people than it is, I'm going to go with this company because they're going to pay me, I don't know, 70 grand a year or whatever to play their guitar, sort of thing. I just never really operated like that. I'd much prefer to play something that I genuinely really enjoy, and I want to work with the company because I like the people, you know. Just makes working in this industry more fun when you get on with people, you know, rather than just sort of parading yourself around like, I don't know, whatever, and then just expecting people to do shit for you. And you do it, and everything has some sort of price tag attached to it, you know.
Mm-hmm. So again, like, what's really important to you? So is it like having more room for your hand? You said at the bottom of your guitar, that's really important to you. What are like the features that's like, okay, it has to have this, has to have this, has to have this, and I want people to be able to do this?
Well, I wanted people to have like more tonal options on one of my guitars than say they would have on a previous model of anything of mine. So that's why we had the push-pull volume pot. So you could go between like full powered humbuckers sound, and then you could have like more of a sort of almost like stratty kind of sound, more for like, you know, different cleans and stuff. We wanted to play more like bluesy leads and stuff. So it just kind of like covered from kind of like light blues, even kind of like some jazzy tones, to be honest, right through to the heaviest metal that you want to be able to play. So something that was like pretty diverse in its tone across the board. But I wanted to do that with just one volume pot instead of having like two volume pots or two tone knobs, or because I don't even have a tone knob on mine, because I just think I never used it on any of my guitars, and I'd always pick it up, and if the tone knob was slightly down, I'd be like, why is this sound all muffled and weird? And then I just realized that the tone knob needs to just be turned up, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's fine. And I kind of look at it as I'm never going to use that. If I want less treble in my tone, I'll just turn it down on the amp. You know, I don't want to be doing that on the guitar. So yeah, that's that. And also for me, I definitely gravitate more towards arch top guitars. So anything that's kind of like got a curve in the top. And I think one of my first guitars was actually like a Les Paul Studio. but it was like an Epiphone, so it was a cheaper version. I mean, at the time, it was, my dad got it for me. It was expensive for buying a guitar for someone you don't know if they're going to make a career out of it or not. But it was definitely an instrument that I used for a long, long time before I had my own money and my own job, and I decided that I was going to break out and try different guitars and not kind of wind my parents up with them spending money on a guitar that I would not want 2 weeks later or whatever. So I feel like, having spent a lot of my early years playing guitar on that Les Paul style body, I guess that's why I gravitate more towards anything that's kind of got like an arch top to it. For some reason or another, it feels way more natural to me to play that than it does anything that's a complete flat top on a body.
Oh.
So yeah, there's just things like that really. But the Les Paul shape kind of never really sat well with me. I mean, I've tried it on and off over the years and stuff, but the double cutaway super strat style is always I think suited me better anyway, but it also feels more comfortable when you're playing it, it's yeah. So that's it. But yeah, I'm not really like, I don't really get too much into the depth of like dimensions of a guitar, or how long the neck needs to be, or even the width of the neck. It either feels comfortable or it doesn't. The only stipulation I have about necks is that it has to be nickel frets, because I don't like playing stainless steel. They don't wear, and every time you pick up the guitar, it just feels like it was built yesterday. I quite like it to feel like an old pair of slippers. If you've worn them for a while and it's broken in. So some of the frets will be lower than others, but you'll kind of, it's molded to you, if you know what I mean. So it feels like it's been played and more comfortable, if you know what I mean. Because nickel's a softer metal anyway, so it shapes over time.
Nice. So, fun question for my new Insta friend, Chris Johnson, AR from Kiesel Guitars. Who's the best doggo on the West Coast, and why is her name Kimsey Woof?
Why?
Why is her name Kimsey Woof? Did I say that right? I feel
Kimsey Woofer, yeah.
There you go. You said it better.
I think he had a friend. I can't remember his first name, but I think last name was Kimsey, and sadly passed away. And I think that's why he named his dog after that person. So yeah, that's the reason why. But yeah, definitely.
Good story then. I'm glad I asked.
On the West Coast. Yeah. I mean, hopefully I've remembered that well. Yeah, I'm sure that's the reason.
It's great. Another question from Five Finger Death Punch fan _ 2014. If you could guitar battle any guitarist, who would it be?
Ooh.
Yourself?
I don't know. Like battling. I mean, I'd probably fail against quite a lot of guitar players out there, so I don't know. I mean, I did do a collaboration with Gus G once. That was like we were in the basement of a church in Manchester doing this video for a song called "Waking the Dead." And it's funny because the name of that song never got named until we shot the video, because we were in this crypt and there was all these like plaques of different names on there where people had obviously been shoved in there from like, hundreds of years ago. And we were like playing the music so loud down there. The cameraman actually was joking. He was like, fuck, the volume down here is enough to wake the dead. And I was just like, there you go. I've been struggling for a title for that song for ages. And funnily enough, we were down there. So yeah, we did kind of like a battle in that song, if you like. So that was more of a collaboration than a battle, though. I don't know. Like, it's funny. It's a difficult question, that. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable battling anyone. I just, if I was in that scenario, I would hope that I just didn't suck and could carry my own for a minute and a half, 2 minutes until the next person played,
Oh, come now. Oh, come. I mean, actually,
that happened at the John Petrucci, right, from Dream Theater. He has his guitar camps that he does in New York, and every year he, I mean, this was pre-COVID, but every year he would invite like guest instructors out to come and play. So he'd have like people like Tosin Abasi, Rusty Cooley, Jason Richardson, Guthrie Govan, all of those people. And yeah, this one night I was kind of up on stage with the aforementioned, and it was just like, fucking hell, there's all these like great players, and you're just standing there. And I knew that we had this jam that we were going to do, and everyone would like take their turn, and then the last person would play would be John Petrucci, right? Stood right next to me, 16 years old into images of words, and then fast forward and he's standing there, and I'm like, fuck, it's about to get on. So I already said, I'm going first, fuck it, I am not following any of you lot. I'm going to go and see what happens. And there is actually a YouTube video of it somewhere with me. I think it's Guthrie Govan, John Finn, might have been Tosin Abasi, maybe Jason Richardson as well. I can't remember. It was a while ago now, and obviously John Petrucci. But yeah, we were all kind of like taking it in turns to like improvise, so it wasn't pre-worked out or anything, So that's the scary part of it. You got to try and come up with something on the spot that actually sounds remotely professional, instead of just kind of, because sometimes, especially like when I've sat down and writing my own songs, I'll be 2 hours before I'll play anything I'm remotely happy with, before I start building what is then going to be the song. So to try and do this in front of that caliber of player on the spot, you know what I mean?
8 Mile.
So yeah, it happened actually. So there you go. I actually did end up in that scenario, and I just was trying to get through it and survive.
Here's your 8 Mile moment. You only have one chance.
There you go. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so fan question from Five Finger Death Punch Norwegian Knuckleheads. Are your solos going to change style on the new record or be the same? You don't know yet, basically.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there'll be me, so I don't know. There might be more neck pickup on certain Death Punch songs than there was before, because Jason would inherently be like a bridge pickup player, because he's a little bit more old school, kind of Van Halen style. Whereas I guess my style is probably a little bit more on the more modern side, I would say. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one, because obviously there is a certain sound that will work more with, say, the style of Death Punch than, say, doing certain things. So like, I mean, it's going to be a case of, I'll sit there and whatever comes out, but I can assure you this, it'll be right for the song.
Another fan question, Insta_Sledders_17. I don't know. I'm like Insta_Sledders17K. Got it. What was the hardest Five Finger Death Punch song you had to learn, or that you've learned? And I think this is a great question.
Yeah, there's some tricky parts, like Trouble. There's right away, the kind of, after the beginning of the solo, there's kind of like this sort of fast passage in there, which has to have a certain sound to it, which can be a bit tricky. Lift Me Up, kind of what it was a little bit, only because I play 7-string guitars in standard tuning, whereas I know that song is in B standard on a 6-string, right? So when Jason wrote that solo, it was definitely more of a Van Halen playing one arpeggio shape, but over 2 strings, as opposed to the way I kind of had to learn it. And now I play it exactly like the notes he plays, but I don't play it anything like the way he plays it, just because I don't want to work that hard when I'm kind of playing that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I suppose the most difficult song would probably have been, Inside Out, actually, is probably the trickiest from a solo point of view to play, because it's just a lot of kind of like fast, for like, it's a lot of repeating fast stuff that you have to get pretty accurately like every time playing it. So yeah, that was pretty tricky, but I'm glad that was more towards the end of the set, because I kind of warmed up by that point, so it was all right.
There you go. Bill Bailey wanted to know, what's the most interesting thing that has happened to you on the road? And that's also open to interpretation.
Yeah. I mean, there's some things that have happened that maybe are like, I don't know whether it's worth sharing or not. Let's try and think of something that's fairly family orientated.
Yeah. I remember being, last time I saw Five Finger, you weren't in the band. I haven't seen Five Finger with you in the band yet, but it was Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there were so many families there. It was Cheyenne And so many families were in the crowd. It was really surprising to me.
Yeah. It's funny actually, because like Five Finger Death Punch, from what I've noticed from the fan base, is definitely more generational, from like, you know, starting with the parents and then going down. And yeah, like there was a lot of families there that they'd all come as a, you know, mother, father, daughter, son, whatever, like all together to come and watch these shows, which I thought was, I don't think I've ever seen that, like not in any band that I've ever been in, because I've either been in metalcore bands or I did one gig with Cradle of Filth once, like many years ago, which is another story entirely. And then I played for about 3 years in Fields and Nephilim, and people aren't bringing their families to that show. Most interesting moment. I don't know. I mean, actually, funnily enough, if we're talking Death Punch tour, I lost Charlie in Prague, and I was worried we'd never find him again.
Oh no!
I don't know if that was interesting, but it was definitely fucking hairy, because
I
was already having visions of like having to tell Zoe in the morning. I'll just be like, mate, I've only been on the tour for like 2 weeks, and I've already lost the drummer.
Oh no! Were you guys out exploring?
Yeah, well, me and him were, and you know, both of us had more than our fair share of alcohol, as it were. And I think the problem is when like most bands, when they go on tour, they have some sort of app that is like a diary. So you know where the hotel is, you know where you're staying, you know what time your kind of like check-in is, your check-out is, you know what, you know, it has everything on it in terms of like, you know, gigs, times, load-ins, sound checks, all of that stuff. But on this particular day, I remember when we got to the hotel, it wasn't the hotel that was on the app. It was a different hotel because it had changed, but the app hadn't been updated. So when we went out later on, we unfortunately, I came out this place. Charlie followed me immediately and got into this taxi. He must have thought I got in it as well. But I went down the street to try and flag a taxi down, but the door was open and shut. And then he'd obviously just looked at this thing and gone, "Oh yeah, take me here." And it wasn't the place that we were staying. No. So I remembered where we were. So I then ended up going back to the hotel, and I had to wake up a couple of people and be like, "Fuck!" I mean, this was full panic mode, completely off my tits. Yeah. But no, it was all good. You know, he's turned up and he was fine. But yeah, that was. Say, I don't know if it was interesting or not, but it was definitely scary.
There you go. Okay, we'll do last one from Five Finger Death Punch lyrics. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, and where do you see Five Finger Death Punch in 5 years?
Death Punch have been an arena band for a while now, and I think the next stage is obviously upping that to probably stadiums and playing bigger shows and bigger crowds and just doing bigger and better everything. So I think that's probably where his vision would lie for that. And all of us, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? You know what I mean? But I don't know. I mean, 5 years time, hopefully still in a gig. Hopefully a couple of albums under my belt at that point that have done well instead of, you know, not. And yeah, still alive, hopefully. Yeah. Just never know, yeah. I mean, it's weird because someone that question ended up in my inbox, and I was kind of like, because I shared your story, and obviously people were like thinking, oh yeah, we'll send the questions here, but obviously it came to me directly. So I said to this guy, I was just like, oh, maybe you should send it to the, you know, the bird who's doing
lady over here. Yeah,
it's like English for chick, I suppose.
I know. I heard it, and I was like, did you just call it? I mean, it's just no one's ever called me a bird before. So.
Was that offensive? Sorry.
No, I think it's cute. No, I think it's adorable. I'm like,
right. Yeah. So that's what I messaged him back just saying, I think you probably should just send this to the bird who's doing the podcast, and then go from there. So obviously he did. So yeah, I was just like, you know what? I don't really think about the future in terms of like have like a clear image, because you know, I guess you think about like things that you would like to happen, but I realized that you know, through so much of my life, the way it's kind of panned out and happened is like you only have today. Like literally the minute, second that you're in, every second that passes, that's it. Like, so whatever you end up doing in the future has a as a direct consequence of the things that you do now. So I just kind of worry about what's in front of me, and then I'm just hope that will ultimately get me to where I want to be. Because you never wish yourself to be in a bad place. So I guess you only ever do things on a daily basis that improve your situation.
In hell in 5 years.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I mean, I feel like I'm in hell now, living in Vegas. Fucking hell.
Yeah, you are.
It's got to be hotter than Satan's arsehole out here. It's like 115 like every day.
No thanks. I don't like it.
I mean, I'd just stay inside on a nice cool 75. It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was on 70 for a bit, but I realised it was just too cold. Sitting in here in hoodies with like comforters on and socks, thinking, this isn't normal sitting in. I mean, it is when you're at home in England, but that's because the weather's so cold outside you have to.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got a choice here. You don't have to be that cold. It's all right. So.
No, I roll with
But I'm not really a summer person anyway. Like, I mean, as you can tell, I don't care. Fucking, it's 115 outside, and I'm still going to wear what I want, and it ain't going to be shorts and t-shirts. I know that.